Welcome to another episode of the Global Game Pod, where we focus on one thing and one thing only, and that's football.
What a goal from Ronaldo! It is absolutely magnificent! It is David Beckham!
With Coach Rudy and friends, this is Global Game Pod.
Yo, what's happening, people? Welcome to another episode of the Global Game Pod, brought to you by CKB Interiors. If you need a kitchen, bedroom, I'm sure you're tired of me here saying it, so get your ass on their website and order it. Right, my guest for today, special guest for me. I can say he's an international football manager, and we'll get to that why in a minute. He's also an academy coach. He's Manraj Singh Sucha. I think I said that correctly.
Yeah.
Welcome, Manraj. Pleasure to have you here, man.
Yeah, nice to be here, man. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, looking forward to the conversation.
Definitely. I'm looking forward to picking your mind as a fellow coach, and always as someone who's always wanting to learn. Think that I have a very decent conversation, not just for myself, because I always say this podcast first and foremost is for myself to learn, and then for whoever wants to view, for them to learn as well. So it's just basically another network to learn. So
absolutely.
Just like I always do with all my guests, how you been getting on during this strange times, man?
Yeah, like you say, it's strange because I've mostly been working from home. So even though I work in football full time, but there's still plenty of stuff to do away from the grass. But as with every coach, especially now, you're getting towards like 9 weeks, and you just want to get back out on the grass, and then you're thinking, right, now it's like end of season, and then you've got pre-season, so you've got a while to wait. Just the uncertainty and getting into a routine and getting yourself going. Obviously, the positives are you've got time to like reflect and try and improve yourself as a coach and try and learn and read a bit more, have a bit more, looking at webinars. And I'm doing my A license at the moment, so our sort of delivery's been online. So I only had the last block to finish off.
Okay.
So we've been doing that and finishing off my project. So plenty to do, but not normal, because obviously as a coach, used to being around people, around players, out there coaching, and that's obviously the hardest bit.
I've decided I'm just going to coach people in my house. Like, it's not football. I'm just want to keep the instructions going.
Get tactics. Give them all names and put numbers on it.
But we're gonna have dinner like this.
Yeah.
This is how we're gonna line up, and this is how we're gonna set ourselves up on the table. It is hard. Like you said, it is hard, but I don't know. Part of me is getting used to it as well. I don't know if that's a weird thing to say. It's because it's been so long.
Yeah.
I think when that day when you go back out there, and I'm not talking the social distancing coaching, because I've seen a lot of it happening and stuff. I'm talking the proper training session, back in routine.
Yeah.
Back in your drill. I think that's going to be that's going to be when you appreciate what we do. I think. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think everyone's going to be buzzing. Like that first session back is, for me, it's not going to be about like drills and whatever. Just getting out there, having fun, everyone buzzing off the session, high intensity, and just back enjoying coaching, enjoying seeing them play, enjoying them playing. If you're playing yourself, you got to just have fun with it, and that's the best bit of football, and that's what you want to get back to.
Brilliant. So I always do this with my guests. I like to go all the way back to your younger self. I don't know how far back it goes. Some people's journey starts late. Some people starts really, really early. But where does your football journey start? And obviously, at that age, you start playing. So what age do you start playing, and where do you start playing?
So from like primary school, just always playing with your mates, playing out with friends. We had a guy called Ranjit. So we just used to call him Chucks, like uncle, in the area. And he saw that there was a load of us that weren't getting that opportunity, so he set up a local team, and again it was difficult to play with like English teams or other players, probably from the parent side. So they always, that was had a very traditional like upbringing in terms of family. So then they didn't want on Sunday, if you're Muslim, you go to a mosque. If you go to a Gurdwara, go to a temple. So that was my thing. So sometimes you'd like try and sneak out and go and play football. You always go to school early, play football every lunchtime, free time, stay after school. And you'd rather say I had detention to play football, because do you know what I mean? You just want to play football. So yeah, and then Ranjit set up that team, and in the winter we actually used to do indoor sessions, and then when the weather got better, we used to do that. So that concept of now in academies playing futsal and that side and having that development, we had those opportunities, and so then we played in Asian tournaments, played in teams when we were younger, and again, Asian tournaments were probably like bigger than they are now in terms of that, so yeah, I remember growing up playing in those, and then playing for school teams, county, and then getting asked for trials in local teams, but my parents, again, so my mum couldn't drive and my dad was working, and there was no chance of him taking me across. And then after that, we were playing British Bulldog as a warm-up in the sports hall at school. And there was, I just remember being a black thing on the floor. Might have been like a rounder's base or something. It'd been left out, and I went over that and I did my ligaments. Yeah, like totally in my left foot. And that was the left foot. I was like jumping. I used to play everything at school. So table tennis, after a few months, like a coach used to come in and train us, and he was playing at sort of national level. Yeah. A few months, I was regularly like competing with him, and sometimes I beat him. And then play county basketball. And again, like in terms of physicality, I was an early developer, but because academically I was sharp and I had that, like I was clever enough on the other side. So in terms of skills and tactics, that was probably where my strengths were. But because I was always a high flyer and a high achiever, I got placed into a more of a fixed mindset where you constantly get praised. So when that injury happened, I didn't have that psychological resilience because I didn't get those opportunities, and I wasn't developed in that way. And then I couldn't bounce back from that in terms of the football sense, the playing side. But a few years later, I couldn't stay away from football, but I couldn't overcome my injury. So I ended up going into coaching. And with coaching, you're always questioned. As an Asian coach, if you're an Asian coach and trying to teach others, and they look at you, think, and I still get it sometimes now, and it's because it's a stereotype. Yeah. So if you're constantly being challenged and questioned on those things, you learn to get very good at having all the answers. You learn to understand, like, really what you need to know more than the average person, so that you can have those answers to hand. And make sure you have that knowledge. So, and then eventually I did a master's in sports performance. So that had coaching, analysis, psychology, S&C, all of those aspects of the multidisciplinary team in a club. Yeah. So like, amazing experience and gaining knowledge in that. And that's where I learned about the psychology side of it. And then, reflecting back on my experiences. So now the psychology of sort of growth and development and mindset is massive for me, and that's what I try and embed in my sessions and try and teach the players, because ultimately that is the make or break. So I know I had like more skills, and tactically I was more aware than a few of the lads that went to play pro and semi-pro by a mile, but mentally it was so you can have a different mindset in different aspects of your life. So in playing football, you might have that mindset. In drawing, you might have a growth mindset. So you might constantly work at it. In like IT or in tech or whatever, you might have a poor mindset and just think, I could never do that. I don't know anything about that. But then in woodwork, it seems a similar sort of concept where you're just trying to make something, but it's how your mind works is like, it's unbelievable. And because the experiences of what becomes ingrained, you could be like amazing at that. So, and that's basically but I was able to use that experience to feed into my coaching. So yeah, I started coaching when I was 18, 19. So I've been coaching for about 13 years now, 14 years. And yeah, got involved in local football, grassroots. About 6 years unpaid in grassroots. MK Dons, working in the community scheme, doing my masters. I started doing the analysis with the first team and the under 18s at MK Dons. Then I became first team analyst for Northampton Town. That was AD Boothroyd was there as manager, Tim Flowers, and then Andy King, bless him, he's passed away, but he was a great coach. He used to give me lifts and stuff and all sorts when my car broke down. But it was a great experience. That first game experience with Northampton Town was unbelievable. I used to do the MK Don stuff in the afternoon, so I'd go Northampton in the morning, team meetings, setting up. So after about a month or a couple of months, Eddie brought me into like the circle, the coaching circle.
Yeah.
So I had that input as well, not just being an analyst. I was, having an input on that side as well. So that was really good. And yeah, so doing that in the morning with Northampton Town, and then I'd go and do an after-school session with MK Dons. Then we'd go across to the academy at MK Dons, again, voluntary, just to learn. And then on some nights, I'd be doing an under-16s local grassroots team, so a Tuesday, Thursday on that, and obviously games on a Saturday for them morning, and on Sunday morning is either grassroots or I'd go and help at the academy.
Yeah.
So just 24/7. That year was unbelievable, and yeah, like my first big academy game, I remember I went up to Liverpool with MK Dons. And I knew the first team gaffer from MK Dons, but I was coaching Dons under 10s against Liverpool, just standing. I called a player off because I wanted to have a chat with him, and he comes over and goes, "Oh, Carl Robinson's standing behind you," and like Robert was just like the gaffer was just standing leaning against the thing. I turned around and he's like, "All right." So it's just like these experiences are just that's what you remember. So yeah, doing that, and then I decided that I didn't want to go and be an analyst, because once you start doing that, sometimes you can be labelled as that as well.
Yeah.
But also, I guess I was naive in a way of like how football works and how things work. But anyway, I went to train as a teacher. So I trained as a primary school teacher, as well as being a coach at Luton Town. So I trained in Luton and got in terms of that, having the masters, having the teaching qualification. And I've continued to coach in academies since then. So I've been to like MK Dons, Northampton first team, Luton Town, Chesterfield did 15-16s, and we had a couple of international lads as coaching, and they became internationals and went on to play for Leicester. A load of those lads I still keep in touch with, and they got like pro deals. One went to Barnsley, Leicester, national Welsh player, and a load of them at Chesterfield as well. So yeah, that was a really good time. Moved across to Doncaster. They were almost like headhunting me to go, we want to go Cat 2. We'll need a full-time member of staff. Do you want to come across? And then when you get there, you realise actually they're quite, they're not ready to go Cat 2 just yet. Yeah. And that's, and you're like, so then I need to get onto my A licence. And I went across to Scunthorpe where I did the 14s, started doing my A licence, and then the head of coaching at Luton became academy manager at Lincoln City.
Okay.
And I got a full-time role at Lincoln City Foundation. So now I'm at Lincoln City Foundation full-time. I manage the schools program, and I'm head of coach development. So I look at our philosophy, our values, the environment, how do our coaches coach, and coach at the academy as well with the 10s and the 14s. So obviously most of my A license stuff is done with the 14s.
Yeah.
And then I missed out. I played for Panjab when Panjab sort of first started back in 2015. So we went and played a tournament on the Isle of Man. And so I, went through trials, couple of trials, got into the team, went and played. That was me trying to, and the thing was, because it was an Asian team, it was easier to overcome the social aspect as well. So there was a number of things around it where I was more motivated to sort of be able to recover and go and do it again. But I never really got to the fitness levels that I wanted to. But because up there, I really understood the game and my position was very good, I was able to go and play. So I played, and then obviously speaking to the management team, I ended up staying on in the as part of the coaching setup. For in the future years, and because I did the analysis already for Northampton, I was coaching already with B license. So yeah, in terms of and that I was the first team performance coach. So again, this bit of psych side, a bit of analysis side, the coaching side. So all of those things got involved in that, and then eventually last year, not last year now, 2018. The manager, he left his position, and it was an open application. I applied and got the role for Punjab as well. So yeah, in terms of the journey, I mean, I also do FA mentoring. So yeah, it's just, do you know what I mean? Like when
It's
you,
jam packed. I love it. I love
yeah,
it. I love it. It's football.
that's what it's about. Yeah, and
That's exactly what it's about.
I guess I fell in love with the game in Euro '96. So I was
Okay.
like, yeah, 8 years old, home tournament, and like football's everywhere. Everyone's buzzing about it. You know that semi-final.
Oh, don't worry. I cried. I cried in that. I cried in that.
Yeah,
Don't worry about
yeah. Do you know
I
what I
hate,
mean?
I've hated Gary Southgate ever since, and
Oh,
now he's the England manager. It took me a while. I'm like,
yeah,
this guy is this guy was it was like my worst experience. You know, every time, like, cause I'm a United fan, so when we play Middlesbrough,
yeah,
and I always remember when we play Middlesbrough, I was just there, like, make sure we put 6-7 past this guy because he almost ruined my earliest memory of football. You get it?
yeah.
But then United had so much as well. You know, from
Yeah,
Uganda to
exactly.
Shearer to Sheringham. It was a great tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a United fan as well. So like those memories of like when your mum was like trying to make you go to bed in the '99 Champions League finals.
Nah, not gonna happen.
Like,
Not gonna happen. I
so
think we've
yeah,
all got that memory. Like,
yeah,
I know exactly what I was doing and where I was doing it as well.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I was not going. I mean, my uncle must have called me to gloat because we're
right,
losing. So it was a
yeah,
90 minute. He's on the phone, and I'm refusing to go on the phone because I'm like, there's still time left in this game. Like, leave me alone.
yeah,
And we
yeah,
scored at the equalizer,
yeah,
and so he's laughing on the phone, and I'm just in ecstasy. And then we've got another corner. To be honest with you, I wasn't even really paying attention to the second corner
really.
because I was still celebrating so much the first goal.
Oh, right,
And it was like
yeah.
I'm watching it, and then it was just one of them surreal moments, and like
It was, yeah.
you can't explain it. You just like,
Nah,
did
yeah.
did that really just happen? Like, it was
Yeah.
mental.
that was that's the best moment, I would say, like 99 comeback with like no time left at all, and then you got like Beckham 2001, that free kick.
Yep.
You know, so yeah, just growing up, it's just, yeah, and then my favorite player to watch was Ronaldinho. And then you always, you know, you go out next day, you trying these tricks, and you're looking at how he dribbles.
Yeah.
And now when I'm doing my A license, I'm breaking down his thing, and then, you know, coaches or tutors asking me, "Oh, that's really good detail. What's your like experience?" And I just used to watch him and try and copy it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how and that's what, for me, we don't create enough clever players, or football must lose so much talent because there's only a certain amount of talent. There's a certain pool of talent in terms of like real elite athletes or real elite players in any field. And if you've got like those that are able to learn quickly and they've got the work ethic, but they go into, say, I don't know, anything like accounting or volleyball or IT or, you know, there's so many aspects. That's where, you know, so that's where it's only open to those that absolutely love it in the first place. And then if you love it, you've got to have, like you said, we were talking before, like you've got to have almost everything go right for you to then get there as well. So, but you can always still, there's enough room in the game for you to love the game and play the game and watch the game, and you know, it's all good in that.
Yeah, I think that's the message I'm trying to get out to a lot of youngsters who might be watching this, and even to parents of youngsters who are watching this, is that I always say dream big. There's nothing wrong in dreaming big, but there's so many different avenues in this game.
Yeah,
you know, from being a grassroots coach to being a child wealth officer to being a secretary of a club to, I mean, so many pathways you can be in. It's not one trick thing where if I'm ever a pro player and that's it, I'm not anything else. Nah, I think there's so much more to it.
Yes, it's funny you say that. Actually, I missed out a club, so I worked at Gainsborough for 2 years, and I was a community manager. So I managed the like community scheme, but you know, brought in like hundreds of thousands in terms of like funding and aspects of that side. So like funding, I was a safeguarding and welfare officer. Football development side, disability side. So you end up doing, at those levels, you end up doing everything. But in terms of experience, it's
you can't beat it.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't beat it. Like right now, I'm a chairman, head coach, everything. You name it, I'll do it. But you know, even I'm the kit man, the equipment manager. But it's all part and parcel of the job, and the sense of appreciation you have for it afterwards. Like once I've packed it up and I've done it all, I'll miss those things. Like even these 9-week period. You know, you miss those little things. It's not always just about being out on the pitch, but you know, knowing that there's a routine that I need to go pick up my equipment, I
Yeah.
need to go do this, I need to make sure the kits are washed, I need to make sure the kits are clean, and all of that stuff
Yeah.
it makes up the weekend in a sense,
Yeah.
it makes up the whole week, and then it's just like it just goes round and round, week by week by week, and then when someone takes it away from you, literally, it's like someone taking your legs away from you. You're like, what do I do now?
Yeah, exactly. No, that's the thing. Like, so there was another field, if you like, where I was like, in terms of like, if you look at how elite like youngsters are going into a field, like what their upbringing is or how they're. So yeah, I was, that was in another field, but that when you then like you can transfer that to say football, and so like you're saying, I think it's like what you said there. I get it, and it's important, and to live it and breathe it, and that's what happens because, like, it can give you a sense of like, for some it's escape, for some it's like they just like live life through it, and it's like it's brilliant. But when you start doing that to a kid, and if their identity becomes wrapped up in football, or it could be another discipline, once that goes, that can be just like lost for a long time. So that's where it's important. Like I think you were starting to say earlier about you can be so much. There's so many different avenues that we've got to like help these youngsters develop in a lot of different ways. So they're good people first, because if they think they're just a footballer and they don't become a footballer, what happens to them afterwards? And that's the problem with a lot of sort of young players that want to become footballers. But like you said, there's so much that you can do in the game still and still be involved in it.
So you come at it from a clearly a psychological aspect, and I kind of love that, because we have people come on here, and even just people in general, where people always are always discussing journeys and stories of how they get into the game and the adversities that they face and how they overcome those adversities. And it seems to be a common trend and a common theme in what's happening.
Yeah.
But obviously, from your perspective, you're studying it. You study it. I always believe people are students of the students of any field for their lives. You can never be a master of anything straight away, and so you're studying it. So what is your? Because obviously, you're in the academy, and then but you're at Lincoln, so I'm not sure. I don't know if they have a pre-academy set up or not. I don't know what they are and anything like that. What is your mindset on this? At how young footballers start nowadays? They start at like 5.
Yeah.
Like,
It's crazy. I mean, there's like in I think, is it Bayern Munich? Bayern Munich been their academy teams up to under 10s or 11s.
Yeah.
So that's the other side. I think with England being so competitive, clubs not wanting to miss out on. There's no evidence at all that a 5-6-year-old is going to make it for a start. Like, there's no evidence at all. Parents aren't educated on that. They want that dream. You've got more chance if you're in the setup because you're, that's how they feel, because you're in there. But the other aspect is you could go down the grassroots non-league route and then still make it. For me, I think if academies are run in the right way, if they give a well-rounded experience, like a holistic experience, to children, there's nothing wrong with it. If you're just selling the dream and drilling these kids and telling them, and asking them the question at under 9, do you want to be a professional footballer? Well, you're not acting like it. That's the most ridiculous thing, because under 9 and under 10, I've heard it in some academies, and you're playing some games and you listen to the team talk and you think, and the guy's talking about contracts and money and professional footballers and what they need to go through to get there, and they're under 11s. And you think, what are you talking about? These, those kids think they could buy a helicopter for £100, but they've got no concept of what you're talking to them about. So it's like how you put it across. So if you've got a really well-rounded experience in an academy where you make sure they're focused on education, give them like good trips abroad, trips like to tournaments, have other workshops in around resilience, around team building, teamwork, but you're always honest. Like, it's so important. I've been to many academies, and there's a couple of academies I worked at where sort of even at Christmas I've said, look, certain players, they're nowhere near, they're not going to make it, and it's a disservice to that player, because you're not being honest with them, and then you're going to make it harder for yourself later on down the line
Yeah.
to say no, because it becomes harder and harder. If you give them that setback now, but be honest with them, they could still recover and come back even stronger. But the longer you leave it, it's not fair on the kids, and you don't do yourself any sort of favors, because you paint yourself in a bad light by selling a false dream as well. So yeah, I think if it's done in the right way, and your feedback is you're always honest with them and objective with them, then they can respect that. And you have to be open. And coaches will talk to each other to say 99% of players don't make it, right? That information's out there. Parents could go and find out. Now, if the academy tells the parents, and they're open and honest with them, and say, these are the percentages, but you might still make it if you do this, this, and this. Yeah. It's how you put it across to them. You say, look, we want to make sure that your child develops first and foremost as a good person. We will try and give them the best education possible, and then it's up to them, the work they put in, how much commitment they show, and making sure that their mental side is right as well. So there's so much to it. But like you said, if in terms of 4-year-olds, I'm not sure about. There's no elite children. You know what I mean? If you're trying to make them elite.
But that's leading on to my next question in a sense.
Yeah.
Well, but it's a bit. I'll go for that. It's a bit controversial. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Because my views on it are a bit controversial. Now, I've been in the grassroots game for about 12 years. Okay.
Yeah.
And you know grassroots football. You've been there. You've done it. You've worked on the community side of all these foundations and stuff like that as well. Yeah. The question is football for all, or is it a specialized skill sport?
What do you mean?
Okay, so my perspective, I'll give it to you mine. I don't want to put you on a spot in a sense. I'll give you my opinion first and foremost.
Yeah.
And like I said, this might go down badly, and I don't really care. But so I play grassroots football now. Obviously, as a coach, as a developer of young people, that's what I am. I invite people to my club who have ambition, who have that dream of one day potentially making it as a pro footballer. That's not me selling them a dream, saying to them that you're going to be pro if you sign for my club. That's me saying to them that this is your start. You're starting here. This is your foundation. And I'm going to lay the right foundations down in order for you to build upwards. So all I'm doing is basically laying the foundation down. And then hopefully we push you on to bigger and better things. That's the aim. That's it. Absolutely. That's the ethos, right? Obviously, you have grassroots clubs who are just participating, and this makes my job very, very difficult,
right?
Because my boys are competing with these boys, and it goes one of two ways. Actually, no, it goes one way only, because my boy, you're gonna understand here. I have a certain criteria of player that I look at, and if you don't hit that criteria, I'm almost the same as an academy in that sense. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to bridge the gap between academy football and grassroots football. And because the gap is so huge. So
it is,
I guess we have to do it. I guess we're left without a choice, because if we want to create, especially in the Asian market as well, create more Asian footballers, and my club is predominantly Asian players. Look, they don't need to be with a white coach or a black coach. My point to them is you can be with an Asian coach, and I'll run a project that is building the gap or bridging that gap between the academy side and the grassroots side. Now, what happens when you go in on a Sunday, you have these participation clubs and you have these community clubs and these projects. And I've got nothing, don't get me wrong, I've got no problem with those guys and doing what they do. But should they be competing in a competitive sport, which is, it's a skilled sport? Do you understand? Like, from my perspective, it's a skilled sport. It's not for all. There's parts of the game which are for all. Fine. You understand? Like, you're doing training sessions or whatever. Is it fair to bring those kids into competitive environments against people like teams like myself who are taking the game seriously and who are trying to develop? Because
it depends.
15-0 score lines ain't helping me, and ain't helping that kid from a psychological perspective as well.
I think that's down to the FA. Like, your county FA should have those leagues so that obviously the best teams play with the best teams around the county, and that's how it is. If you've got teams that when you just start off and you're very young, and they do the first set of fixtures and then they change them so promotion relegation so that you can even it up. That's really what needs to happen quickly. But if you're saying like in terms of like it being for all, like you never know, like a kid who's not very good at 5 could end up being excellent at 14, 15, So at MK Dons, I worked with so many players that became, in that I was there for 4 years, and there was 1 year where we had 14 youth internationals. And that sort of 2-3 year age band group was the ones with Shea Ojo, Dele Alli, George Williams. So they were all there at the time. And like, if you ask the coaches at under 14s, Dele wasn't the best player. Like he probably was on the fringes of like the best group that you'd start with. And that was under 14. So if we're saying that, because he didn't have any muscle, he was scrawny, he was thin, like, do you know what I mean? So, but he was clever. But, if we're judging players at a young age in that respect, then it makes it difficult. Like, we have to give them opportunity to develop and grow, but also you have to try and make those judgments. In terms of like football for all, I think it's your responsibility. If you want to push yours even further, then I'm sure you have got your own games program where you go and play friendlies against academies, you go and play against other development. That's what you've got to do, because you're sitting slightly away from affiliated football.
Yeah, no, I completely get that. Stuff. I think more the question I'm leaning towards, obviously you being an FA coach, man, I know you're gonna have to be politically correct when you speak about this, but I am gonna ask it, because being a coach and mentor, for example, when they make the decision, the FA, they make this decision to have, for example, power play. What is the point? Like, seriously, what is the point? Because from what you're saying, I get what you're saying. I completely agree with what you're saying. You know, there should be leagues where the best play with the best, and the rest of the guys compete. But then there should be no need for a rule like power play. It shouldn't exist.
I mean, I'll be honest. I'm not, entirely sure about the power play rule, because the thing with the power play rule is to try and give that team, like you said, the experience whilst being in that same league, but really they should be playing in a completely different league because they're not of the same ability. That's the only other solution, because you're probably not doing any justice, or you're doing a disservice to those players, because if those players are playing week in, week out, and they continue to enjoy their football and think about, and they'll improve, you improve by playing the same or better level of players. So it's actually worse for them. It's probably better for them than for your boys. Because they might learn something. They might have to figure out a problem that they've never come across before. And they might get a bit of success by stringing 3 passes together, or playing 1 through ball, or making a couple of tackles against a really quick player. That's their development. What are you guys getting out of it? That would be the question, because you could walk through this team. If it gets to 7-8-0, your players are mentally switched off. They could just, how do you challenge them? What are they getting out of it? That's you're saying.
I love the concept of power play. I do love the concept of it. Like, on paper, it sounds brilliant, because it does change. It's almost like a training session in a sense, where it's okay. Because it's only from up to 5 aside or 7 aside. I think that's as far as it goes up to. So let's just say for 5 aside, you go 4-0 up, and they're allowed to bring in an extra player. Now you're playing outnumbered, which is brilliant. Because you do that at training anyway. So there's nothing abnormal about it. If you go 6-0 up, then they have 2 extra players on the pitch. Even better. This is brilliant. Now the scoreline can go out the window. I think the problem that I found with the power play, just speaking on the power play, was it wasn't well thought out, because I don't think anyone actually saw it being implemented and where it would be implemented. Now, if you had 2 like-minded teams and freak of nature dictated that I went 4-0 up, for example, and you're on the opposite side, well, you having an additional player is now more of a hindrance. It is going to make it more challenging for me. And I understand that, because we're like-minded. And being 4-0 up was just a freak thing. It's not the norm.
Right.
So for you having that 1 player advantage is not an advantage. It's actually a disadvantage to me, a massive disadvantage to me. What's happened, or what I found has happened, is practically, like I said, theoretically brilliant. Practically, when you're playing against teams who are just participating, the coaches are not actual coaches. So they're not understanding the advantage or the disadvantage of having additional players or not. All you're finding is rather than 4 boys chasing your one guy, now you've just got an overload of players on the pitch where there's 6 guys are chasing your one guy. The concept hasn't changed. Like if we've coached our boys right, all he's going to do is when he sees 6 people running towards him, he's not going to be stupid enough to try and take all 6 on. He's just going to move the ball sideways. And that same gap that was occurring initially is going to continue to occur. So practically, I don't think it was well thought out in terms of where it's used as well, like in the leagues that it's used in. Because, yes, like you're right, I've had to change my stance. I've had to be like, I can't keep doing this year in, year out. Even though it's convenient, even though I'm working with predominant Asian parents, and it's easier for them. And you know, at 13, 14, 15 years old, what Asian parents can be like. I don't care if you're 2nd generation, 3rd generation, or 5th generation. I don't think that mindset's ever going to change, you know. So it's difficult for the boys as well to get to places and stuff. And this league is comfortable. It's in one location every single week.
Right, okay.
But then at the same time, I've got this issue. Understand? So that's where I was coming from, more in a sense of, is football for all or is it a specialized sport?
Yeah, I mean, like, you have to, like, for me, obviously, like, not just the FA Cup, but you have to, if it's, you know, if you start specialising or excluding people, you're starting to take away opportunities, and that pool becomes smaller. But I think, you know, if you've got a problem like that, you've got to be creative in solving it, because at the end of the day, that's the system. You know, unless you overhaul the whole system, which is very difficult to do. And even then, you know, how can you make it like better? I think, and obviously, like you say, you're taking responsibility in that you're giving them different challenges. So, and you know, the best way, especially at that age, to learn and to enjoy football is playing games. So even at academy, we'll try and get 2 fixtures in per week rather than just the one at the weekend. So, you know, one of your training sessions could be against an academy team or a development team. And then you've got another training session, and that's probably even better for those kids, because they're getting experience of playing against a really hard team where they might have to think more about defending, about how we're going to win the ball back, like about tactically how we're going to do this. They'll have a training session to work on a variety of things, and then they'll have another game where they're sort of like getting loads of confidence, loads of touches on the ball, taking people on. So that's almost like you can see it from the perspective of, I'm not sure if this is like helping my players, or you can see the other side is like, actually, this is like a bonus for my lads, because they're getting the side of, you know, like England got knocked out by Iceland by maybe not having enough practice of breaking down a deep block. Because, you know, so whereas you guys are getting loads of practice at all different sorts of things, and variety is the absolute like key when you're looking at like youth development. So variety in games, training, opponents, all of those things is really important. So,
but then just touching on, I get that. I completely agree with you. And like I said, I think it's time where I take ownership of the situation now, and I've given it a chance, and it's not working for me. So I've got to find another means of doing it. So I am trying to expand them and trying to make them play in a tougher league. So I think the hardest thing for me in that sense is trying to explain to the parents what the vision is. And hopefully, I think I've got a good set of parents with me who will actually jump on board with it. But we'll see. I haven't really made that official announcement yet, so we'll see.
You can still, you know, you can still like continue to play in that league, but have, you know, if possible, a midweek or even a Saturday, Sunday double fixture, because kids can, you know, they'll play every day at school. You know, I know, you know, so why not play 2 days at the weekend and like make the most of it in that way. So
but then just another thing, obviously on the more of the psychology side of things. Now, sticking with the youngsters, now obviously, you know, competition in England is the worst word in the world. Everyone knows that. It's not just in football, it's everywhere. It's in school, it's everywhere, right? I remember sports day in school, and I'm going to take it away from the football because I don't want to be like I'm having a go at the FA, because I'm not. I'm talking about just in general in life now, because I'm sure you remember being in sports day, and we're talking about the egg and spoon race. We're talking about 100 meters.
No.
We're talking about the sack race and the egg and the bean throwing thing, whatever. The most stupid games but they were competing. And there was a winner and there was a loser, and that was life. You know, you won and you lost, and I've always won and lost in life. Doesn't matter what it is, you win.
Yeah.
Could be with your missus. You win or you lose, you know?
Yeah.
These things happen.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, this element of winning has been taken away.
Mm.
Or should I say the element of losing has been taken away?
Yeah.
And
So
everybody's a winner.
yeah, it will never go away. It's always there.
Of course.
The message is extreme. So sometimes when people don't get it or they find it difficult to change, you have to have an extreme message to try and get the point across.
Yeah.
Because if it's at one end of like the spectrum where it was
All the way
before,
to the other end.
you know what I mean? Your message has to be here so that people can come to about there. That's where you want them, right? So, and that's basically, so, 100% every grassroots coach will still go out and try and win the game. Every player wants to win the game. And if you lose the game, you're upset, in academies as well. But, understanding that a development in academies, we don't have a league. So, it's about players understanding that their development, the long-term process is more important than just the result on that day. That's how we work as an academy. So a player might, so I've done it in the past where one of my players, their challenge was to do a rainbow flick. So I've been like teaching and practicing like rainbow flicks in training, or it might be an elastico, it might be a skill, or it might be a one-touch pass around the corner, whatever it might be. That's his challenge. So in order for him to improve, he's got to try and achieve that in the game. Now that might be to the detriment of the team because it might cost a goal, but long term it's better for that individual and it's better for the individuals in the broader sense. But the players still want to win, and
I get that. I completely understand that. I think the point I'm making is that obviously I'm trying to dive into the psychology concept of it.
Yeah.
Where I think the reasoning behind it is that nobody's a loser. Everyone's participating, everyone's having fun. And at the academies, I love that you're doing that the challenges, because we try to do it not as enforced as you guys, naturally, because I'm still learning. And the more conversations I have with people in the academy and stuff like that, the more I take from them. And that's what someone once said to me, that coaches are the biggest thieves. That's what we do. And I've got no problem with that whatsoever. So, but it's all about that learning, and in able to bridge that gap, I have to learn what you guys do, so I can bridge that gap. But my point more is going towards those guys who are on the end of a 15, 16, 17-0 battering constant weekly, who don't have someone like yourself in the academy system who's focusing and whose main focus on them is the development side, and being able to converse with them and liaise with them and tell them that, look, forget the result. It got nothing to do with that. It's all about this.
Yeah. I mean,
that kid is always going to know he lost 15-0. How badly does that affect him psychologically? I'm genuinely curious about that.
Yeah. So that's all like depends on the environment you create as a coach. So I've had academy teams where they haven't won for the first half of the year, because it's just how the groups fell, and in that category of teams that we play against, they're probably the weakest team or whatever it was. But they've still enjoyed their football and they've still developed really well. And then they start winning. Then they might go undefeated for the rest of the season because they've spent the first half of the season sort of working on themselves. But it depends on the environment. So ultimately, everyone wants to win, and it's important to want to win and to learn how to win and lose. So that's just a part of life. It's a part of football. And if you're watching, I don't know if you watch like The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan documentary.
Yeah, I watched it. Brilliant.
He wants to win every game, and we take that away from children a little bit, where we don't teach them. They don't develop tactically if you take away the winning, because the whole idea of learning to win is figuring out a tactic to beat the other team. That's so if we're not developing players tactically, which on my A-licensed webinar, one of the AD Buford was on one of them, and he's like, I think we're slightly behind tactically. Well, if in the academy system they're not trying to figure out ways to beat the opponent because the score doesn't really matter, then tactically they're going to fall behind. So, but the score always matters in the sense that you're trying to win a game, you're trying to score more goals, that's the aim of the game. But the environment is the biggest impact on player development. So ultimately, once that's finished, you should be able to park it and move on and take the lessons, because if you win, it doesn't mean you were good. And if you lose, it doesn't mean you were bad. So when you win, what was good and what could you have done better? And when you lose again, what was bad that you lost, but then what did you do well that you can take forward? So it's always about the environment that you create. And like I said, the reason it sort of got taken away was just because the message was like they were at this extreme and they've gone to that extreme. That's the only real reason I can see behind it. Because every game you go to, like you can come up to an academy game where the score doesn't matter. You can go to a grassroots game, any game. You know, they want to win the game. Like,
it matters.
Exactly. It'd be pointless to, you know, otherwise you could just score 5 own goals or whatever. It just doesn't make sense, does it? It does not make sense if you're not trying to win the game. So yeah, it's just like you say about the 15, 16-0 drummings, is trying to support those players and setting the environment first in your training. So then those players have the mental tools to recover from a drubbing and learn from it. Because, you know, Michael, if we talk about Michael Jordan, because we just spoke about it, he got cut from his household team, but his mentality was, I'm going to work really hard so that I can go and be the best and go and play and go, you know, so carry on and you'll get those stories like all the way through sport anyway. And yeah, that's where the mental tools try and help those players. Some of those players will get
wicked, man. Trust me, honestly. You know, one thing it's just a sidebar. Like when I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, and I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking, we are two. Okay, I'm gonna say this correctly. We are two football coaches who happen to be Asian, who are talking about football, and guess what? It don't sound like we don't know what we're talking about. Sorry, I'm not blowing my own trumpet, but I'm just saying, you know, I'm just putting that out there. I'm just gonna put that one out there. Because
it's not, I mean, I know what you mean, because the stereotype immediately. So I was actually reading a book called Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. So it's a really heavy read. Like, I probably wouldn't like recommend it like widely to people because it's so heavy. But he talks about biases and like priming and stereotypes. So it's so hard for people to get over the stereotype. So if the cultural norm is Asians don't play football, that can take hundreds of years to change, right? In the first place, there's no role models. You know, if you watch, for some reason, randomly found a Muhammad Ali "What's My Name" documentary. Is on, I think, is on Sky Atlantic.
Yeah,
amazing. But Muhammad Ali, Joe Louis, those boxers that became, you know, world champions in boxing, and then you got, you know, black players, say, playing football at the highest level. You've got Japanese players, you had Park Ji-sung, all of these players. You have very few Asian players who are then not really highlighted, but then the culture within the Asian community, again, is not geared towards sports and football. So there's so much around it that in term that all of that leads to, well, Asians don't know that much about football. And the stereotype purely like from the first off, it could be like, say you had a 15-year-old, a 16-year-old who'd done a psychology in 18 psychology in A-level, right? But it's an 18-year-old, really small girl coming in and going into, say, a football club and lecturing that football club on what they should be doing with their players and how to develop them psychologically. And say she's like 4'5", glasses, really small girl, just come fresh out of college, and all the players, everyone there, their first impression is like, what their first impression will be like.
I completely get it. I get it.
Person, right?
Yeah.
So, but she might have like the best knowledge, and so it takes time for her to like get that across.
Yeah.
First impression and maybe the first 20 minutes or whatever might be that no one pays much attention because of the stereotype that she's young, she hasn't had much life experience, she's only got an A-level, all of those things, and that lends itself to people not paying too much attention to the message. And yeah, if you read that book and you listen to some of the things around it, it's like the amount of bias that's in our unconscious brain is unbelievable. Like, I'm not going to go into it now because there's so much to it, but it's just crazy. And how people can try and overcome that is the worst thing, because you don't know you're doing it.
Yeah, exactly that.
So with that, when you talk about we're Asian coaches and we know what we're talking about, brilliant. We have to get the message across, so we have to try and. So when I go into a club, I know like my first session I have to be on it, and you have to have that command, and you have to show them straight away that you know what you're talking about, because almost every club you go to, you get that sort of like, are you sure you're in the right place sort of thing? You know, at times you get that unless you know people there already. So with that, it's a case of like, it's going to take a while to change, but role models are absolutely key, because we don't have any Asian coaches at the top of the game at the moment. So if you don't have them at the moment, how long will it take to get there? And then once you get those role models, then it will feed into other people wanting to do it and thinking that they can get there as well. So it just takes a very long time to try and do that, unless someone can sort of, unless someone can get there, it makes it difficult for other people to follow through as well. So that's
Yeah,
really
100%. But I think we are stepping in the right direction now. And, conversations like this, the conversations I've had across the podcast with other coaches as well, and other Asian people, even Asian players, like Bournemouth, Dinesh. Now, having that conversation with people may not have known about these guys that exist. And I keep saying it, that there are plenty of us. There are plenty of us doing brilliant stuff within football, whether it be grassroots, academy, whether it be at a higher level. There's pro coaches out there as well, don't get it wrong. They are out there. But the problem with us is it's like we're all hidden. And we're just secluded away from even each other. So the community don't even know about it.
No.
The widespread Asian community don't even know what's going on within our own community. So I ask the question, so why should anybody else know?
Exactly. No, you're absolutely right. And that's how to create role models, and by a role model is someone in the public eye who's being successful, and like children can follow their behavior. So how do we get more people in the public eye, basically, like you're saying? And what you're doing here is a way of doing that, which is great.
Yeah, I think that was the USP at the beginning, and I'm glad that message is now coming across. And that's why it's good to have someone like you, because now I'm going to touch on the international side, because I did never think that I would be saying this on my podcast, where I'm talking to an international manager. So you're obviously the manager of Panjab FA.
Yeah.
Just for the viewers who are probably thinking, Panjab FA, what the hell are you talking about? Because that could potentially be the case. Just give us a little background on the Panjab FA. What is it like? Because a lot of people will probably be saying Punjab in India. Like, what do you mean? Are they their own international country? Like, what's going on? Have they got independence? How does it work? What's the thing?
The chairman, like Harpreet Singh, set it up 2014, and we play under the banner of CANIFA. So CANIFA are a Confederation of Independent Football Associations, and they're often made up of sort of sovereign nations and nations that previously were a country or fighting for independence or UN recognition, or they were an empire. So Punjab in itself was a state, it was an empire before the British Raj.
Yeah.
And that was the Punjab we know now, plus another state, Haryana, plus a bit of Kashmir and Pakistan.
Okay.
So that was the empire of Punjab. So Panjab FA represents that what was essentially one nation. And it's just about trying to bring people together and giving those people an opportunity to try and play and compete at a high level. And then it gives those players a platform. So obviously we have players with backgrounds from sort of Punjab and Pakistan. And
that's what I was just going to say. So it's not, like I said, people, obviously being Indian myself, looking at it thinking, Punjab, isn't that in India? Because obviously this naivety, this is ignorance. This is, and having you here, is now, because I've never actually had a judgment on it. That's the honest truth. I've never actually thought too much on it, to be honest. And obviously, when you got in touch with me, I was starting to be like, oh, right, cool. I want to know more. What's the best way to know more? I can go on Google and search it. I can go on the website and read it. But I was like, but I've got the knowledge going to be sitting in front of me. So I'll wait. I'll bide my time and I'll wait and I'll find out. So these questions are not in any way like obscure or nothing like that. These are just me being very, very curious and wanting to learn more about it, because so it can be somebody who's actually Pakistani.
Yes. So Pakistan's national keeper, so their national keeper Yusuf Butt, plays for us as well because because they play in FIFA competitions, which is a different affiliation to Canifa. And so he's got his last two coaches. He's got a new coach now, but quite happy for him to come and play for us as well. And he plays his football in Denmark. He's a pro in Denmark. So he's based there. We're mainly based in England because the best Asian players, like if you want to develop as a footballer, it is so competitive in England that even if you're playing non-league, you're probably playing at a standard that's similar to some of the lower pro clubs in Europe. So we go and play against like Italian teams and in the Canifa tournaments, in like the World Cups. We've had players who have played Serie B or in the fourth division of Italy, or one of our players plays in the fourth division in Germany. But his level isn't that much greater than some of our players who play sort of step 3, 4, 5. And players from England you'll know Sim Tandy and the Nabi brothers. They've gone from not getting a pro or not making it pro. They might have had a pro contract. They've not made it pro. Rather than playing non-league here, they've gone straight to the top of like the Greek league or the Portuguese league. They're playing pro right at the top there. Whereas in England, they weren't getting into a pro club. They would have to drop down to a non-league team. But it shows the standard of the English pyramid, like the strength of it, if you like. And a lot of that can be the physical side, because physically, even non-league players have to be absolutely, like, their physical condition is very, very good. So when you go to Europe, they see that as a positive. So you've got those tools already. Now, if you're a clever player, if you've got the other tools as well, then you're going to be very successful for that team in Europe.
Oh, that's brilliant. Like, so that's wicked. In that sense, like you said, because it's a separate, it's not FIFA, it's Conifa, it's different. So players you could have a potential player that is an India international who can play for Panjab FA as well. Yeah,
as long as he's eligible to play for Punjab.
Of course. There has to be like with any other country in
exactly.
That actually sounds quite brilliant. And then what about in terms of like management recruitment? Is it a philosophy that you want to build from within as well? Which is
because with my like previous experience, so that's something that I've put in place in terms of our playing philosophy and coaching philosophy. I used to work with a coach actually called Arosh Ali, who's assistant manager at Sporting Bengal.
Yes.
So he was at MK Dons. So he worked with me as a first team coach or assistant manager, and then Lytton, who you've had on the program, Lytton's a man. He works with me as well, and because we've gone through that academy system as well, the education, they understand the philosophy. But they also have experience of non-league, so we get the best of like sort of both worlds of adult football, youth development, different philosophies. So we come together really well. We've got a lad called Dominic Violet who does an adult female team, and for him it was a case of I got in touch with him because he worked with a goalkeeping company called GK Evolution. They do like national goalkeeper conferences. So there are two coaches from there. So he got involved through that, and then he's up in Spennymoor, which is like Newcastle area, right? And we play our games in training. We've trained at Wolves, we've trained at Fulham, and that's miles away from him. So he kept coming down to those sessions. He showed that commitment. So then I said, he came on board in terms of the role, because ultimately is you've got to have a work ethic and a commitment to the cause. Like, that's bottom line. You go into Billericay for not getting paid for it, but showing that commitment then brings you other opportunities, within that. And me going at MK Dons, working with the first team and 18s while I was doing my masters, not for any pay, then got the opportunity at Northampton Town. So that's really important for me is having that work ethic. So, and being humble as well. Like, so all of us have a really good attitude in terms of we can have a healthy debate. We can discuss ideas. There's no egos in the place. We're humble in terms of like how we work together. So that side's really good. We've got Govinda, who's like he's a psychology lecturer, but because I'm like I love my psychology side as well. So for me, it's like let's get him in because I knew of him, and then he can add value to that as well. We've got a young analyst. He's inexperienced, but that's how I started. So again, getting people on board to give them experience looks good on their CV, helps them out. They can get advice from me, from Litz, from the Arosh, from that coaching team. So absolutely, got a physio. He's got his own physio clinic in Midlands and in London. So yeah, absolutely, it's about bringing people in who will add value or are willing to learn and progress themselves and are hungry for that. And if we can help those guys out, then absolutely we will do. That's what we want to do is give those guys opportunities to work at that level, because we can, we can give those guys experiences that they won't get elsewhere.
Yeah.
We went and played Barry Town summer of 2019, last summer, and they're a Welsh Premier League team, and it was a European qualifying for them. So they were in the Europa League, qualifying for the Europa League, and we were the sort of a warm-up friendly.
Yeah.
And played that game. And so, yeah, I just analysed them tactically, looking at what they did. And, we ended up getting a 1-1 draw playing in Wales against Barry Town. So all these types of experiences that we played, sort of Liverpool's under 23s we played. And those are the kind of experiences on top of like the World Cup. So Abkhazia World Cup 2016, it was in Abkhazia, who they're a nation themselves between Georgia and Russia.
Okay.
And we got to the final of that World Cup. We were winning 1-0 with 2 minutes left, and they scored with 2 minutes to go or 1 minute to go. Right in the last minute, they scored and played extra time, got to penalties, and we were 3-1 up on penalties.
Wow.
And then we missed the rest of our penalties.
Oh.
But if you watch that clip like online, there's about 10,000 people, not just in seats. They're standing like on the wall of that. There's a low wall in the stadium. They're in the stands, and the atmosphere, the experience, and that's the big thing, is like that World Cup tournament experience, going away with a group, all of those things that it's difficult to get elsewhere. So those kind of opportunities that we can provide, and also development for players, helping them in terms of their exposure, in terms of their experience, and also for our staff as well. So yeah, absolutely.
That's brilliant, and it's good that you are like branching out to the other sectors of the Asian community as well, which is massively important, because you have the platform to do it. I mean, I get it that the playing side of it, the players have to be eligible, and that's fair enough. You can't take that away. At the end of the day, that is what it is. That's football at the end of the day. Do you understand? You can't just want to play for a country you can't actually represent. Yeah. That's life. But in terms of the staff and stuff, it's really good that you are branching out and bringing in other people from the South Asian community, because it's like a group of role models within role models for even someone like me who's a young coach. Well, I'm not young anymore, man. I'm quite old. But I'll take that. I'll take that. But no, like for someone like me who's looking into it, who's building experience, I've always been comfortable in the youth sector. I've always been comfortable with it. That's been my thing, and I became used to the fact that I'm like, I don't think I'm ever going to move out of here. So I may as well like lay my bed now and let's just deal with it. That this is it. This is me, and I became content with it. And obviously being pushed and finding people who are going to push you and who are going to stoke a fire within you again. Because when you start the coaching journey, you'll know this. You want to get your badges done as quickly as possible. When someone says you have to wait 2 years, you're like, for what? I'm ready. Let's go right now. You like that.
Some people. Yeah, exactly. I mean, mine were weird. Like, because I did wait in between, because I had enough to do in between. Like I was getting experience, I was doing stuff, so I wasn't necessarily. And all my badges, apart from my level 1 and 2, have been in an academy environment where you get support from the club. So it's a little bit different, but yeah.
So in my sense, it was like initially I was like, what do I need? I was such a rebellious child. I was like, what do I need to do? What do I need to do the badges for? I don't want to do it. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing nothing with the FA. I don't want to do anything with it. I was like, I don't want to do anything with the FA. No. And then I got around to it, and I was like, nah, look, I need the qualifications at the end of the day. If I want to get a good job, I need to get the qualification. Now I started taking it seriously, and then I got my level 2 done, and I was buzzing. Like, when you complete it, you're like, I'm ready for this, And then obviously the feedback I got from the tutor as well was like, normally I would tell people to wait 3 years before they go on their level, on the UEFA B. But for you, I'll tell you, in a year's time, you'll be ready.
Yeah, yeah.
So just make sure you
Yeah.
stay on top of it. As soon as I came out of there, I'm looking for applications straight
Yeah.
away.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
ready.
Yeah.
And I did it. I've been on the waiting list for now. This is my like 6th year or something where I've been on the
Really?
waiting list. Yeah.
UEFA B. You didn't
UEFA
go on
B.
it this year either.
Nope, I didn't get on it.
Well, you're London as well. It's
Yeah, so
even
I
more.
try and apply London. I try and apply Essex as well. I try and apply
Yeah.
Middlesex as well, just in case, obviously
Yeah.
their catchment areas, they're going to look at their own people first, which is fair.
Yeah. Now you got a good chance now with Billericay, but yeah, we can speak about that afterwards anyway.
Yeah, 100%. I mean,
Yeah.
I've obviously spoken to Butch as well, who you know.
Yeah.
I've spoken to Butch and everything like that, which I'm not too worried now. Like, I'm less worried now than I was, say, 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Because obviously I created a good network of people who.
Yeah.
There's good people out there. Let's just say that there's good
Yeah,
people
yeah.
out there. It's just I never knew that they existed.
Mm.
And when you're trying to do something on your own all the time, you're applying. I might be getting something wrong with my application form. I don't know. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying I've been on the.
Yeah.
And then you become kind of like, do I really want to do it now? I don't need it to do what I'm doing. So why do I need to do it? Do you understand? And then.
Yeah.
But now then, obviously, I've got the opportunity at Billericay, and I'm enjoying it, which is now stoking another fire within me. Say, wait, if you're saying as high as I can probably go higher. I just need to put my mind to it, and and that it's like that spark has been ignited. And believe it or not, as much as I don't like the lockdown and I don't like this time that we've had, but it's given me this opportunity to do this.
Yeah.
Which initially was started off with wasn't serious, but now I'm taking it a little bit more seriously. And if I didn't have this, I wouldn't be having conversations with you. I wouldn't be having conversations with the people I've had conversations with. And that fire probably wouldn't have started in my belly again.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's a weird way, like how things come about,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And you probably, cause the clubs you've knocked off your list there, all of those must have been an experience within an experience within an experience within an experience. You understand?
Yeah. I have to say, like, I was really lucky that I got to MK Dons and Northampton first. So the way those clubs work, it was funny listening to, because Eddie Boothall did a webinar thing for the A license about the coach analyst relationship, which I watched a couple of days ago, and all the stuff that we used to talk about, he was still talking about. That was, it was ages ago, but he'd talk about, certain things around the 80-20 rule and how to put information across to players and how he wanted to work. So I was lucky to be in that environment, and I was very lucky to be at MK Dons in terms of the youth development, because the amount of players that they created purely down to the program and the environment that, I went to Luton, they had an excellent program and environment. And then after that, it was a mixture. They had some good elements, or some clubs were still getting there. But even now, I look at some clubs and I look at some, obviously now the guy from Luton's in Lincoln. So we're, progressing in a really good way. But Lincoln have gone from like non-league to pro. So they're still improving their stuff. But I'm looking at so many other academies thinking, and even coaching courses and thinking, we used to do that stuff at MK Dons. And they're just talking about it now, like the, loads of stuff. Just loads of stuff around how to develop players, about individual challenges, about the environment that you set, and the practices, like the clever practice design. We used to get together as coaches and talk about our sessions and put things on that I don't see people doing anymore. Like we used to. The other day we were talking about breaking down a deep block and on the A license, it was about defending a deep block. It's like, how do you break it down? At MK Dons we used to do exercises where on purpose one team would do a pass. They would leave the pace slightly short, but they knew that their teammate would get there before the defender, and so that was a teasing pass. And the point of that was to bring the defender out of the gap. So then you would get there, play, and then play into the gap. And so practices like that. And so I was very, very lucky to learn about the psych side, about individual development of players, all of those things. And obviously Mike Dove was academy manager, and Dan McKeechie was like head of coaching at the time. And Steve Kirby, who's now at Leicester, Dan's at Arsenal. Steve Kirby I used to work a lot with Steve with like 14, 15, 16s. So he's at Leicester under 23s now. So, all these great coaches that you work with, and then all the way through. You know, it's like you said, it's been really good in terms of a learning experience.
Yeah.
You know, Chesterfield working with those players that we had and developing those players, and yeah, every environment teaches something different. So, but there's a sacrifice.
That's brilliant. Of course, there's 100%. There has to be a sacrifice in this game, and I think it doesn't matter whether you're a player, you're a coach, you're a secretary, you're a chairman. I think every single person in this game who wants to go to the top.
Yeah.
Has to put it in, and it, look, it's never going to be given to you. It just ain't going to happen. Do you understand? And I know you say you were lucky in a sense, and luck is an element. Luck is an element of the game itself. The game that we love has the most luck involved in it whatsoever.
Yeah.
Even they tried to bring in VAR, and you still get lucky.
Yeah. Oh,
you understand? So I don't think there's anything wrong with luck. I really don't think there's anything wrong with luck. But you do start, and it was something that we were saying before we actually came on here, which was once you get an opportunity, doesn't matter how the opportunity came about. Once you got that opportunity, it's about what you do with that opportunity.
Absolutely,
and what you make of it. But
and I just had a lad just message me today going, this ladies' academy team have offered me a role, but they're not paying for it, and he gets paid at his grassroots like expenses. And he goes, yeah, they're asking for like 2 nights a week and games on weekends. Like, should I take it? And I'm like, where do you want to go with it? Like, you know. And just talking to him, he goes, yeah, I want to go as high as I can, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, you have to get that experience. You know, don't ask for money. The first thing isn't about money. Is if you're a young coach, get the experience, build that network, build those relationships, and that can lead to so much more. But that's the first thing. You know, if you've got an opportunity, like you said, you've got to take it.
100%. I was just about to ask you if you had a message for the young coaches, what would it be? And you just gave me the message, you know. It's that nice and clear, and that's perfect. Obviously you're a coach. You're obviously manager of an international team. I have to ask you this question before we go.
Yeah.
You can only take one player to come and play for Punjab. Yeah. Messi or Ronaldo?
Messi. Sorry, bro. I know he's got that Ronaldo shirt right there. It's killed him.
You're a United fan.
You're a United fan. I'm a United fan, yeah, but Messi's unbelievable. He's unbelievable.
I'm not saying he isn't. You're a United fan. You should be ashamed of yourself. I'm joking.
He left. No. He's seriously, like, Messi's just unbelievable. Like, he'll score 50 goals a season. He'll assist 20 goals a season, 30 goals a season. That's for me about the thing about Messi. And everyone's got as an athlete and an absolute beast of a sportsman, it's Ronaldo. As a leader and an athlete, Ronaldo's like one of the best in the world because he dragged that Portugal team to that Euros. He has such a massive influence on teammates and people around him. He's an absolute leader. So on that side, you're probably thinking, actually, now I'm thinking, might take Ronaldo in that sense because he could single-handedly drag you psychologically.
That's what I was going to say. Being the psychological mind that you are.
Yeah.
Come on. Like, I was expecting you to say Ronaldo. Like, I was thinking.
But in terms of...
I do get it.
In terms of a player, if you're looking at a footballer, a pure footballer, then it's Messi because
I agree with you.
He can do everything.
I always say that. And when I have this argument with people, and I always say, Messi is more talented. I'm not going to dispute it. I will never ever try to argue that because if I try to argue that statement, I don't really know too much about football then.
Yeah.
But I know Messi is more talented. I would love to be coaching a Leo Messi in my team because I know I don't really need to coach him. I just give him the ball and let him do what he needs to do. But if I wanted a role model, like you said, a person who shows strength in character, someone for the young kids to be like, you know, when everyone I always ask people, like, what advice would you give to youngsters? And the first thing that comes out of everyone's mouth is work hard. Yeah. Well, he's the prime example of that. Work hard. You know, you don't get 5 Ballon d'Ors and the rest of it, the 5 Champions Leagues and all of that by not working the way he's worked. And with the thing with his journey is we can see it like from our own eyes.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys, when they say, "Oh, I worked hard, I had this, I had that," you don't really see it.
No,
But with
yeah.
him, just
And
his
that's the
physical
thing, is, like you
demeanor, you
say,
can just see it. It's just like that.
yeah, yeah. You can see that. You can see he's at the top of the game. So his journey's been told again and again in his story. Like for whatever reason, Messi's story isn't told as much, but he came from Argentina to come all the way across, and you see his young videos, like when he's just playing on like
I
dirt
love it.
pitches.
I would love to have that boy at my club. I would love
Yeah,
it. You understand?
and so his journey, he had a growth hormone deficiency, and that to take care of that, to stay at the level he has to work as hard as anyone,
100%, 100%.
So, but it's the thing with Ronaldo is there's a more of he's more of a celebrity type. And Messi's has a bit more humility, and is like he just wants to play football and just crack on with the football. So there's two aspects of those guys
Well,
as well.
I love Floyd Mayweather, so
Yeah,
I was always going to lean towards Cristiano Ronaldo.
okay. No, but I love Floyd as well because he's like the packages are, but like so clever. Like he doesn't talk like he's clever, but he's boxing clever. He's so clever.
Unreal.
Unbelievable, yeah.
Unreal. And then this is it. Like, there's so many different. Football is not. It's not just one. It's not just the sport itself. You can take lessons from, like you said, you're reading a book about something else, and you can relate it back to football. You can watch a documentary like Jordan's. You can bring it back to football. You can watch the journey of footballers and then bring it back to football. But you can bring so many different boxers.
Yeah.
All of these things, because we love the sport so much, and I always say it, like I live my life with football. So when something happens, if I'm going to use an analogy, 9 times out of 10, that analogy is going to be football based because that's what I know. So it's the easiest way to like try and match it up. But it helps in parenting. I found that it helps me in parenting because my boy loves football.
Yeah.
Sometimes to explain right and wrong to him,
Yeah.
using football, especially when it comes to eating. Like he's a big Ronaldo fan. So when he starts being fussy, I'm like, do you think Ronaldo wouldn't eat that?
Yeah.
And it works.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on here. Honestly, the depth of this conversation, in terms of just like understanding the coaching side of things, I think this is the best conversation I've had in that sense, because you've gone into depth, you've touched on so many things. You've also touched on stereotypes. You've touched on things that other people want to hear about. Because some people might be listening to this and think, well, it's quite a football-based conversation. But there is quite a bit more to that than it's more than just football. And I think that's our sport at the end of the day, that it can be more than just about the game. But once again, man, thank you very much for coming on. I know you've now changed your mind and you would take Ronaldo instead of Messi. So I respect you now.
Okay. I'm seriously I'm going to go and have a think about that, because you made a good point. But no, it's been thanks for having me on. It's been, like you say, it's been really good talking to you and a really good conversation around
100%. 100%, and I'm going to stay in touch with you because obviously I feel like, and I said this to you in the message, the last message before we organized the day, I said, I bet you there's so much insight to get from you. And that's me not knowing you. You know, I could sometimes you can go through somebody's Twitter page and someone's Instagram page and know what you're getting yourself into. And I'm glad I had this conversation now, because it's been one of the better conversations that I've had.
I appreciate that. Thanks for, thanks for your kind words, if you like. But it's like you say, it's just like, if I can I've learned from someone as well. I've had these conversations, I've gone away and learned about it. So, if I can pass that on or help someone, or if I'm learning from you about actually your journey with Billericay, or some of the things that you're doing with your team, there's lessons for me to take from that as well, definitely. So we can always, like you said, we're always learning. So it's
100%. And another big part of this is that it is designed for my personal networking. I've got no shame in saying that. Because it is what it is. I mean, someone once told me, you might know him, Kevin Green, who works with the FA coach. Yeah. So I was on one of his, he was doing a coaching session at Chelsea for young coaches, and I went along to it, and he just happened to be speaking, and he said, well, if you ain't working, you better be networking. And it just stuck in my head. So sometimes it's not even just football stuff that you can be taught. Those lessons have been taught to me, and I'm like, that's actually true. If I'm not working, why am I just being lazing around? I may as well network and get to know other people.
Yeah, nice.
And again, you never know what comes out of those conversations and what might come out of this conversation, where we will be in 5 years' time. We never know. Do you understand? And
Absolutely.
100% our paths will cross at some point, even if it just means that we're going out for a little munch aside.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
No, but brilliant. Thank you very much for coming on. Guys, I'm going to leave his socials down there. Make sure you give him a follow. Give Panjab FA a follow. I'll also leave their socials in on the YouTube description. So give them guys a follow. Follow the journey. Support. Like I said, it's not secluded as some people may have thought it is. I'm really glad that you clarified that as well, because that's very important for people to know that there could be Pakistani or Indian or
There
whatever.
are, yeah.
And that's huge. That's massive for people. You understand? So it's inclusive and
it's inclusive. Litz is from like his background's Middle East and
yeah.
Bangladeshi. They're understaffed, and so yeah.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. And yeah, again, knowing those guys, I'm gonna definitely be following the journey now, 100%, and I'll definitely be in touch. But guys, make sure you give these guys a follow, like, share, and subscribe the video as always. And I'll see you in a few days for an episode. Thank you once again, and till the next episode.